Helping an injured alien was simple, until she looked at him like that. Bound by stardust. The cold bite of Europa's atmosphere seeped through Nora Reeves's thermal suit as she adjusted the settings on her atmospheric sampler. 6 months into her terraforming assignment on Jupiter's moon, and she was already counting down the days until her contract ended. Atmospheric nitrogen levels still unstable, she muttered into her recorder. Terraforming grid sector E12 shows minimal progress. She gazed up at Jupiter's massive form, dominating the sky like an ever-watchful eye. The gas giant cast a pale, orange glow across Europa's icy surface, turning the landscape into an alien dreamscape that never quite felt like home. Nora had signed up for this assignment to escape. From Earth, from her failed relationship with Damien, from the crushing weight of expectations back home. Europa Station was supposed to be her fresh start. Instead, she found herself stuck in an endless cycle of maintenance checks and environmental readings, the days blurring together in the perpetual twilight of Jupiter's shadow. Just another day in paradise, she sighed, kicking a chunk of ice and watching it skitter across the frozen surface. The communications unit on her wrist crackled. "Reeves, what's your status? You were supposed to report back 20 minutes ago." The gruff voice of Commander Hodges cut through the silence. "Just finishing up, sir. Atmospheric readings are still below target parameters. I'm heading back now. Make it quick. Storm's brewing on the western quadrant. Don't want you caught in it." Nora checked her navigation display. She had a good hour before the storm reached her position. Plenty of time to get back to the station, but something on her sensor array caught her attention. An anomalous heat signature about half a kilometer to the east, near the restricted excavation zone. Protocol dictated she report it immediately. But curiosity got the better of her. "Copy that." "On my way," she said, already changing direction toward the heat signature. The excavation zone had been off limits for weeks, following the discovery of what the science team called non-terrestrial artifacts. A fancy way of saying they'd found something alien. The official statement claimed they were merely studying ancient meteorite impacts, but station gossip suggested otherwise. As Nora approached the site, the terrain grew more treacherous. Jagged ice formations rose from the ground, like crystalline teeth, forcing her to navigate carefully. Her suit's heating system worked overtime to compensate for the dropping temperature. The heat signature grew stronger as she rounded a large ice formation, and there, half buried in snow and debris, was a sight that made her heart stop. A figure lay sprawled across the ground, clearly injured. But this was no human. The being was tall and slender, with iridescent skin that shifted between deep blue and purple. Most striking were the 3 bright silver eyes that suddenly opened, fixing on Nora with unmistakable intelligence. "Holy shit," Nora whispered, freezing in place. The alien's chest rose and fell rapidly. Dark fluid, blood, seeped from a wound on its side. It made a soft chittering sound, followed by words that Nora understood perfectly, despite the impossibility. "Please. Help me." Nora's training kicked in. Whatever this being was, it was injured and in need of assistance. She approached slowly, hands raised to show she meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you," she said, crouching beside the alien. "Can you understand me?" The being nodded, wincing in pain. "Translation, neural interface. Your language is in our database." Nora examined the wound without touching it. "What happened to you? Who are you?" "My name is Theron. I was a diplomatic envoy from the Lyrican Confederation." The alien's voice was melodic, almost hypnotic. "My shuttle was attacked. I escaped, but—" He gestured to his injury. Nora's mind raced. An alien diplomat? On Europa? This was far beyond anything the station commanders had disclosed. "We need to get you medical attention," she said, reaching for her communicator. Theron's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with surprising strength. "No, you cannot tell them. They are the ones who attacked me." "Who? Europa Station personnel?" "Some of them. Working with others. A faction that wants war, not peace." His silver eyes dimmed slightly. If they find me, everything is lost. Nora hesitated. Helping an injured alien diplomat hide from station personnel was definitely not in her job description, but something in those silver eyes made her pause. They held a desperate sincerity that she couldn't ignore. "Okay," she finally said. "Let me at least treat that wound. I have a med kit in my pack." As she reached for her supplies, Theron watched, her with curious intensity. "You are not afraid of me?" Nora gave him a wry smile. "I've dealt with scarier things than you. My ex-boyfriend's mother, for instance." A sound escaped Theron that might have been laughter. "You humans and your humor, even in dire situations." Nora cleaned the wound as best she could with her limited supplies. The alien's blood was thicker than human blood, with a strange, phosphorescent quality that made it glow faintly in the dim light. "This should hold until we figure out what to do next," she said, applying a pressure bandage. "Can you walk?" Theron nodded, attempting to rise. Nora moved to help him, her hand brushing against his forearm. The moment their skin made contact, a strange sensation rippled through her, like static electricity, but somehow warm and comforting. Theron froze, his three eyes widening. "Did you feel that?" "What was that?" Nora asked, heart racing. "The binding," he whispered, a note of awe in his voice. "I didn't think it was possible with your species, Malai. The what now? Among my people, when one life saves another, it creates a sacred bond, a connection that transcends mere acquaintance. You have initiated the binding ritual by treating my wound with compassion." Nora withdrew her hand quickly. "Whoa, hold on. I was just helping you. I didn't sign up for any alien bonding ritual." "It is not something one signs up for," Theron explained gently. "It simply happens. It is the way of my people. We are now connected." "Connected how, exactly?" Nora was starting to regret her decision to help. Before Theron could answer, a distant humming sound caught their attention. A search drone, its scanning beam sweeping the terrain methodically. "They're looking for me," Theron said, his voice tight with fear. "The faction I spoke of. If they find me, they will silence me permanently." Nora made a split-second decision. "There's an abandoned research outpost about 1 kilometer from here. We can hide there until nightfall." Supporting Theron's weight, they made their way across the icy terrain, ducking behind formations whenever the drone passed nearby. The alien was surprisingly light despite his tall frame, moving with an ethereal grace even while injured. As they reached the outpost, little more than a prefabricated shelter used during the initial Europa exploration, Nora's communicator buzzed again. "Reeves, where the hell are you?" Commander Hodge's voice was sharp with irritation. "Storm's picking up speed. Get back to the station now." "Sorry, sir," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Got turned around in the terrain, taking shelter at Research Outpost 17. I'll wait out the storm here." A pause. "Outpost 17? That's been decommissioned for months." "Still intact, though. Environmental systems are functioning. I'll be fine." Another pause, longer this time. "We're reading another heat signature with you. Is someone else there?" Nora's blood ran cold. "Just firing up the auxiliary heating unit, sir. These old systems run hot. Stay put. I'm sending a security team to extract you." The communication cut off before she could protest. Nora turned to Theron, who had been listening to the exchange. "We've got trouble," she said. Theron nodded solemnly. "The ones coming are not here to rescue. They are here to eliminate witnesses." "Witnesses to what, exactly?" Nora demanded, frustration mounting. "What the hell is going on here?" Theron's silver eyes met hers, filled with a mixture of gratitude and regret. "I am carrying information that could prevent a war between our civilizations, a treaty negotiation that certain factions wish to sabotage." "And these factions include people from my station?" "Yes. The humans call themselves the Planetary Defense Initiative. They believe all alien contact should be met with military force." Nora ran a hand through her short hair, processing this information. "So I've just bound myself to an alien diplomat who's being hunted by a human extremist group. Perfect." The binding was unexpected, Theron admitted, but perhaps fortunate. Among my people, it grants certain advantages. What kind of advantages? Theron hesitated, then placed his six-fingered hand over hers. That same warm, static feeling returned, but stronger this time, flowing up her arm and spreading throughout her body. Enhanced communication, shared perception. In time, perhaps more. Nora was about to pull away when a flood of images filled her mind, memories that weren't her own. A vast city of crystalline spires, a council chamber filled with beings like Theron, a secret meeting with humans in Europa Station uniforms. What the? She gasped, reeling from the impact of the shared memories. Now you understand, Theron said softly. The stakes of what we face. Outside, the storm had arrived in full force, howling winds pelting the outpost with ice particles. But it wasn't the storm they needed to worry about. The security team would arrive soon, and Nora now knew they weren't coming to rescue anyone. So what do we do now? She asked, looking at the alien who had inexplicably become bound to her fate. Theron's eyes gleamed with determination. Now, Nora Reeves, we fight for peace. The outpost's perimeter alarm beeped, indicating approaching vehicles. Time had run out. They're here, Nora whispered, fear and resolve mingling in her voice. And I've got a feeling this is just the beginning. Echoes across the void. Theron pressed his palm against the outpost's frosted window, his silver eyes tracking the approaching vehicles. 3 transport modules, their harsh floodlights cutting through Europa's perpetual twilight. Not a rescue party, an execution squad. They're moving quickly, he observed, his melodic voice tense. They know I'm here. Nora rummaged through the outpost's emergency supplies, gathering anything useful. How did they find us so fast? I thought you said your people had advanced cloaking technology. We do, Theron replied, wincing as he shifted his injured side. But the binding we shared released a distinct energy signature, like a beacon to those who know what to look for. Great, so helping you basically painted a target on both our backs. Nora found an old pulse rifle and checked its charge. Only 30% power. Better than nothing. I am sorry to have involved you in this, Theron said, genuine regret in his voice. Among my people, the binding is considered a great honor. I did not consider the danger it would place you in. Nora's irritation softened slightly. It wasn't his fault, not entirely. She had chosen to investigate the anomaly, chosen to help him. Let's focus on staying alive, she said, handing him a thermal blanket. There's a maintenance tunnel under this outpost. It connects to the geothermal vents. If we can reach it, we might be able to circle back to the main station undetected. Theron's third eye, centered slightly above the other two, blinked rapidly. An expression of concern Nora somehow understood. Your Commander Hodges, Theron said quietly. He leads the human faction of the Planetary Defense Initiative. The revelation hit Nora like a physical blow. Hodges had recruited her personally for the Europa mission, had been her mentor for the past 6 months. You're sure? In response, Theron reached out, his iridescent fingers hovering near her temple. May I? Nora hesitated, then nodded. The moment his skin touched hers, images flooded her mind. Hodges in a meeting with figures Theron identified as Viridian separatists, enemies of the Lyrican Confederation. Blueprints for weapons designed specifically to target Lyrican physiology. Plans for false flag attacks to justify military action. He's been planning this for months, Nora whispered, shaken by the clarity of Theron's memories. But why? What does he gain from starting a war? Power. Resources. Theron's expression darkened. My people possess technology your scientists have only dreamed of. Faster than light travel. Molecular restructuring, consciousness transfer. The outpost's perimeter sensor beeped again. The security team was less than 200 meters away. Time to go, Nora said, moving to the floor panel that concealed the maintenance tunnel. As she pried it open, the outpost's communication system suddenly crackled to life. Engineering Specialist Reeves. Commander Hodges' voice filled the small space, unnervingly calm. I know you're in there. and I know who you're with. This doesn't have to end badly for you." Nora exchanged glances with Theron, who shook his head in warning. "We've detected the binding signature, Nora," Hodges continued. "He's already influencing you. The neural connection the Lyricans establish. It's not the benevolent link they claim. It's a form of parasitic control." "He's lying," Theron whispered. "The binding cannot control your thoughts or actions. It only allows for deeper understanding between bound individuals." Nora believed him, not because of any alien influence, but because of the desperation and honesty in those silver eyes. "I'm giving you one chance, Nora." Hodges' voice grew harder. "Surrender the alien, and I'll ensure you're treated fairly. Resist, and you'll be considered compromised, a threat to be eliminated." Nora leaned toward the communication panel. "With all due respect, Commander, I think I'll take my chances with the alien who's been honest with me over the mentor who's been lying to my face for 6 months." She smashed the panel with the butt of her rifle, cutting off Hodges' response. "That was perhaps unwise," Theron observed, but there was a hint of admiration in his voice. "Probably," Nora agreed, helping him into the maintenance tunnel. "But satisfying." They descended into the narrow passage, which was barely tall enough for Theron to navigate in a hunched position. The tunnel was warm, heated by Europa's geothermal activity, a stark contrast to the frigid conditions above. As they moved through the dimly lit passage, Nora's mind worked furiously, processing everything she'd learned. "The treaty you were carrying, what exactly does it entail?" "A peace accord between my people and yours. Recognition of mutual boundaries. Technology exchange protocols." Theron's voice echoed slightly in the confined space. "And most importantly, a joint defense pact against the Viridians." "The ones working with Hodges?" "Yes. They have been attacking both our outposts for years, disguising their raids as either human or Lyrican aggression to sow discord between us." They reached a junction where the tunnel split in 3 directions. Nora consulted her wrist display. "Left leads back toward the main station. Right goes to the excavation site." She hesitated. What exactly did they find there? The official report said meteorite fragments, but "My shuttle," Theron confirmed. "Or what remains of it. I managed to encrypt the treaty data before they shot me down, but the physical copy is still there." Nora made a decision. "Then that's where we're going." They took the right passage, moving as quickly as Theron's injury would allow. The tunnel grew warmer, steam occasionally hissing from vents in the walls. "There's something I don't understand," Nora said as they walked. "If this binding is so significant to your people, why did it happen with me? I'm nobody important." Theron's expression softened. "The binding does not recognize rank or status. It only forms between compatible spirits. It saw in you what I have come to see: courage, compassion, and a fierce determination." Nora felt her cheeks warm at the unexpected praise. "So what happens after all this, assuming we survive and expose the conspiracy?" "Among my people bound, partners typically remain together. The connection deepens over time, allowing for profound understanding across cultural barriers." "You mean like romantically?" Nora asked, suddenly flustered. Theron made a sound that might have been laughter. "Not necessarily, though it can develop that way. The binding is first and foremost a connection of minds and spirits. It transcends your human categories of relationship." They fell silent as they approached the end of the tunnel. According to Nora's map, they should be directly beneath the excavation site. "Security will be tight up there," she warned. "Are you sure the treaty data is worth the risk?" "Without it, millions will die in a pointless war," Theron said simply. "Yes, it is, worth any risk." Nora nodded, gripping her pulse rifle tighter. "Then let's do this." They emerged from the tunnel into a massive cavern that had been hollowed out beneath Europa's surface. In the center sat the twisted remains of what must have been Theron's shuttle, a sleek craft unlike any human vessel Nora had ever seen. But they weren't alone. A team of technicians in station uniforms worked around the craft, scanning and removing components. "We need a distraction," Nora whispered. Theron's third eye blinked rapidly again. "The binding allows us another option. Close your eyes and focus on my presence in your mind." Nora complied, skeptical but willing to try anything. She felt a warm current flowing between them, and suddenly her perception expanded. She could see through Theron's eyes, feel his thoughts guiding hers. Together, they moved as one, Nora creating a diversion by overloading a nearby power conduit, while Theron, temporarily invisible to human perception, thanks to their shared consciousness, slipped into the shuttle wreckage. Alarms blared as sparks showered from the conduit. The technicians scrambled to prevent a cascade failure, none noticing the alien retrieving a small crystalline device from a hidden compartment in the shuttle. When Theron returned to Nora's side, the connection between them faded back to its previous level, leaving her momentarily disoriented. "That was down intense," she gasped. "The first deep binding is always overwhelming," Theron acknowledged, showing her the crystal. "But we succeeded. The victory was short-lived." A familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Impressive teamwork." "Commander." Hodges stood at the cavern entrance, flanked by security officers with weapons drawn. His expression was calm, almost regretful. "The Viridians said the binding would manifest unusual abilities, but I didn't quite believe it until now." He gestured to his men. "Secure them both." Nora raised her rifle but knew the odds were impossible. 6 trained officers against 1 engineer with a partially charged weapon. "You won't win, Hodges," she said defiantly. "The truth will come out." "The truth?" Hodges smiled thinly. "The truth is that humans need to stand alone in this galaxy. Alien influence will only weaken us, make us dependent on technologies we don't understand." "Your fear blinds you," Theron said, his melodic voice carrying through the cavern. "Together, our species could achieve greatness beyond imagination. A pretty sentiment from a species that bonds itself parasitically to other life forms." Hodges stepped closer. "Hand over the treaty data, and I'll make sure your deaths are quick." Nora felt something stirring in the binding connection, a plan forming in Theron's mind. She caught glimpses of it, understanding flowing between them without words. "The data means nothing without proper authentication," Theron said, holding up the crystal. "Allow me to show you." Before Hodges could respond, Theron activated the crystal. A burst of energy erupted from it, temporarily overloading the electrical systems in the cavern. In the momentary darkness, Nora felt Theron's hand in hers, pulling her toward an emergency airlock she hadn't noticed before. They sealed themselves inside as the backup generators kicked in, restoring power. Through the airlock window, Nora saw Hodges shouting orders, his face contorted with rage. "This leads to the surface," Theron explained, working the controls. "But we'll need environmental suits. The atmosphere, already on it," Nora interrupted, opening a storage locker that contained standard emergency gear. She handed Theron a suit modified for non-human physiology. Europa Station had apparently been preparing for alien visitors for some time. As they donned the suits, Nora asked, "What was that surge from the crystal?" "A distress signal, encoded, with the entire conspiracy data. It's being broadcast to both my people and yours, specifically to Admiral Juliana Reeves." Nora froze. "My mother? She's involved in this?" "She leads the human faction supporting the peace treaty," Theron explained. "She has been our most valuable ally." A wave of conflicting emotions washed over Nora, surprise, pride, and a touch of resentment that her mother had kept such secrets from her. The outer airlock door opened, exposing them to Europa's surface. Above them, Jupiter loomed massive in the black sky, its swirling clouds a testament to the chaotic beauty of the universe. "What now?" Nora asked, the reality of their situation settling in. They were stranded on the surface with limited oxygen and no clear path to safety. Theron pointed to the horizon where a faint light was growing brighter. "Now we trust in the binding and those who would stand with us for peace." The light resolved into a vessel. Not human, not quite like Theron's shuttle either. Something new built through collaboration. Is that a joint rescue operation? Theron confirmed, his voice warm with hope. The first fruits of the alliance we fight for. As the ship descended toward them, Nora felt the binding pulse between them. Not a chain, but a bridge connecting. Two worlds, two futures. You know, she said, a smile forming despite the danger still surrounding them. When I signed up for terraform duty on Europa, this wasn't exactly what I had in mind. Theron's three eyes crinkled in what she now recognized as his version of a smile. The universe rarely gives us what we expect, Nora Reeves. But sometimes, it gives us exactly what we need. The rescue vessel touched down on Europa's icy surface, its hatch opening to reveal a mixed crew of humans and Lyricans working side by side. Ready? Theron asked, extending his hand. Nora took it without hesitation, the binding between them humming with possibilities yet to unfold. Ready. Together, bound by forces neither had anticipated, they stepped forward to meet their shared destiny among the stars.